And away from the power sector, we now deal with the first discussion for today. We're looking at the state of the Nigerian economy through the lens of the annual inflation rate, which is back on the rise, accelerating for the fourth straight month as at May, reaching about 17.71% just last month. Now, the latest figure has shown the steepest inflation rate since last June, fueled by rising food prices, soaring diesel prices, and an ongoing dollar shortage. As a result of this, Nigeria's economic outlook at this period in time remains threatened by disruptive power outages, foreign exchange shortages, capital outflows, and untamed inflation. And if not well managed, economists say this would lead the country into another recession. While other oil-producing countries are enjoying the gift of soaring commodities, Nigeria has failed to cash in with no thanks to the suboptimal oil production levels, heavy reliance on gasoline imports and fuel subsidies, a development that has continued to worsen dollar scarcity in the country. Now, to give us more insight into this and other burning economic issues, I'm now being joined from our Abuja studio by Professor of Accounting at Now University of Nigeria, Professor Ofili Ugodioha. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today, Professor Ofili.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Prof, let's start off with your take on what are the elements, the factors fueling inflation here in Nigeria, as well as the lingering shortages we have in terms of Forex. We've had predictions and causative elements from the IMF, the World Bank, and other global bodies. But really, what do you think are the elements fueling this here in the country?
You mean the element that causes the inflation or the element of the inflation in Nigeria?
The elements causing inflation here in Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you very much once again. Well, generally, inflation comes as a result of so much demand on a particular product and the inability of the supplier to meet up the demand. That is the actual cause of inflation. But if you look at the inflation in Nigeria, you look at so many things that are almost man-made, that are not natural or that don't follow the sequence of inflation in other countries. But because in economics, we always say ceteris paribus, that's all things being equal. But in Nigeria, it's a different case. Okay, we take the inflation for the Forex, which is the center point of this discussion. The cause of scarcity in Forex is a very difficult thing to analyze. It is something that everybody knows, but difficult to point out. Reason, if the scarcity of Forex in Nigeria is because manufacturers are chasing foreign exchange to be able to import the raw materials or to be able to produce their goods and services, it would have been a good thing. It would have been the actual sequence of inflation or the actual sequence of the scarcity of goods. But here in Nigeria, you see that those who actually consume the Forex, the foreign exchange in Nigeria, are politicians. Then what are the politicians producing for us? Nothing. So what do they offer us? Consumption. Like I say, it's an open secret that everybody knows that within this period of electioneering and primaries in different parties, we have all had news from here and there in every news medium, in most news media, how much they were chasing dollars from banks. and how much they were giving the participants or the delegates to be able to get their votes. You can see, I can tell you authoritatively and clearly that a friend of mine testified having gone to the bank to withdraw his own dollar in Nigeria, and they say there's no dollar. Which country have you ever seen this type of thing happening? It's only in Nigeria that I put money in the bank and I wanted to take it. You said the money is not available. Why is not available? They have collected everything. Where does the money go? At the hands of politicians. It did not go for production. It did not go for manufacturing. It did not go for trading. If a simple person, a common man cannot take his money, how much more those who will need their money for manufacturing? How much more those who will need their money to go and import goods? So that's the problem we have here. And we have the so-called EFCC, the police. They say they are around everywhere, in every delegate center, in every primary election center. But whom did they catch? They see them, and nothing happens. Because these are the big guns that you cannot touch. And when I look at Nigeria, sometimes I cry. Because the problem of Nigeria is almost becoming beyond redemption. That people you think that they will fight this corruption are actually those who are enshrining this corruption into the system. And you are saying that you are coming to rule, to administer the nation, and we are coming with corrupt hands.
Okay, Prof, if I may butt in here.
That's the problem. Then
If I may butt in here. Now, the IMF has a whole lot to say about the state of the Nigerian economy, stressing that the CBN's development finance intervention is fueling inflation in the short term and also weakening the ability of the Apex Bank to control inflation. The perspective is that CBN's continued provision of subsidized funding to certain sectors has to slow down as it is undermining the ability of commercial banks to lend on a risk-adjusted pricing basis. What's your stance on these pointers that the IMF is raising?
Yeah, let me come before I come to the IMF. You see, today our currency rate with the dollar, that's Naira rate with dollar, official rate is 409. And if you go to unofficial, you are getting around 600 and above. So what does that signify? What it signifies is already an inflationary trend. If you check what was official rate in 2014, before this government came in, it was 162 Naira per dollar. What does it mean? It means that if you are using 162 million to import four containers of ceramic tiles. 162 to import 4 containers of ceramic tiles. It all means by today you need 409 to import the same 4 containers. What does that mean? It all means the price of it has gone high by 4 times. So that's on the side of FX. And the monetary authorities do not see this as a problem. The monetary authorities don't see that Nigeria, that 90% of what we consume here come from abroad. That if we don't cage the high rate of dollar to our currency, once you bring in the goods at that cost, Nigeria will pay 4 times the price of what it was some few years ago before this government came in. And sometimes I look at it, I say, why are we like this? The government put you that place to regulate the economy, to help and ensuring that the monetary policy you are putting in tallies with the direction of the fiscal policy. But Nigerians were watching all these things, seeing that those who are in charge of our monetary system have put suffering on us by 4 times what it was 7 years ago or 8 years ago. And we agree, we don't talk. Some of us that talk, the impact may not be there because how many people will understand even what I'm saying? And even when they understand, they will take it as a politics. By the time they will say whatever they want to say politically, they will rubbish the actual economic data and the actual financial input we are making. So that's the issue. Then coming to the other question you ask about the CBN intervention that is likely to cause some problem. Yes, I agree with IMF because CBN, if you look at the MPR, the monetary policy rate that they just brought out, it simply means that they are quite insensitive of what the masses of Nigeria are suffering. They fail to understand that increase in MPR will result to increase in borrowing rate. As of today, you go to the bank to borrow money, depending on your weight in the bank, on how the bank rates you, you will borrow money between 22 to 30%. And tell me a human being who will borrow money at 30% or even 22%, which is the minimum, to go and do what? What gain are you going to make with the money you borrow at 30%? If you borrow money from the bank to produce and you pay the bank 30%, are you going to make 30% profit or more than that? It's not possible with all the conditions that surround Nigerian economy, with all the environment that makes it difficult for people to produce here. You cannot make 30%. Even if you make that 30%, you give it to the bank. Why are you producing? What we expect CBN to do or MPR to do is to reduce, the banking authority to do, or CBN to do, is to reduce the MPR rate instead of increasing it. But they don't think about that. Then they are going about intervention on what? Those interventions are palliative. And I've always said that palliative measures don't work in a big economy like Nigeria. All those small money you are giving to this, I give so and so to small scale and small and medium scale. How many percentage of them are getting it? Those who may get it are less than 5% or maximum 10%. So what happens to the remaining 90% or 95% of producers?
Okay, now, Prof, wrapping up our conversation.
Many companies are being extinguished.
Wrapping up our conversation, let's delve a little deeper into the solution you think would work for us. Looking at short, medium to long-term solutions. At this point in time, we have to deal with this complex issue of foreign exchange scarcity and then this double-digit inflation we are dealing with, and whether or not the move by the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria will rein in inflation. But from a broader perspective and segmenting the solutions from the short to medium and long term, what are the practical solutions you think we can adopt?
Well, thank you very much. The practical solution to this, which start from short term to medium term to long term, is that Nigeria should realize, or the government should realize, that Nigerians are hardworking. So what do they need to thrive? Nigerians need enabling environment. Because if you shift a Nigeria here, an average Nigeria here to UK or US, he will excel. He's an average person here. But take him there where there's an enabling environment, he will excel. So what are those things we need? We need security. Because if there's no security of lives and property, no investor will come in. And if investors do not come in, you should expect worse than what we have now. If investors cannot come in, it all means even our people here cannot invest the little saving they have on anything. So if there are investment on production, on agriculture, the inflation will definitely go down. Because I told you earlier that inflation comes as a result of fewer goods available to a larger population demanding for such goods. But by the time goods are much more available, then the prices will come down. That is the issue. That one is one. Number two, even if there is security of lives and property, and government cannot generate power for manufacturers, for industrialists, and for commercial purposes, the prices of goods produced in Nigeria will still be high. And once it is high, what do you call high goods and services? Is inflation. The meaning is that the cost of goods produced in Nigeria cannot be sold because the one produced abroad will be cheaper than ours. So we will be bending our nature to importation because all we produce here cannot be sold. Then, thirdly, commercial banks. Why do we call them commercial banks? We call them commercial banks because they serve the economy. They serve production. They serve commerce. They serve people for saving. Commercial bank should be able to lend at a low interest that will enable people to borrow from bank and be able to make their own money, make their own production, and still make profit from their production. Not to borrow from the bank at 30% and your profit is not up to 30%. So if Nigeria is based on these three, plus basic infrastructure of roads, like railway, like other things. Because if goods produced in Kano cannot be sent down to Lagos or sent down to Enugu or Port Harcourt the same day with rail, then the cost of goods and services will still be high because you have to be using what? Trailer to haul goods and services. And you know the cost of trailer from Kano to Port Harcourt or to Lagos. So that adds to the cost of goods and services. If you haul your product, as it is done in any part of the world, on train, on batches or batches of train, it costs almost nothing. It costs almost nothing. So the cost of that is insignificant to the product.
I would like us to wrap up. So
these are the basic things that have to be done to drive down the cost of goods and services.
Prof, I'd like us to wrap up this conversation finally now in just about a minute. Really, this is a heavy political season. We are seeing the agenda set up by the political actors running for president next year. The agenda is clear, really. But do you think these elements you've made mention of as solutions are practical, or you see any traces within the economic mix these players are bringing to the fore come next year? Because this year largely is already overtaken. The second half of the year is already overtaken by political activities, and this should continue to intensify. So that policy direction for solutions might not necessarily play out now, but when we have a new administration, do you think these are issues they'll be able to take on in real terms?
Well, thank you very much for this. At this point, I would like to use this opportunity to advise Nigerians that at this point, we don't need to vote for a party. We need to vote for a person who has the economic agenda to drive the nation. We have to vote for a person that will be able to give us what we need. And in order to do that, Nigerians should be able to ask politicians when they come for campaign. Ask them questions based on what they are telling you. If you tell me that you will provide infrastructure, you will provide power, tell me how you are going to do it. But the problem we have is that party drives everything. And once they come and bulldoze us with money, bulldoze us with all sorts of talk, we forget the actual indices that will drive the economy. Okay. And if we vote wrongly, sorry, it will be worse. In the next, from next 1 year to another 4 years, it will be worse. Exactly. And only God knows what will happen in this country then.
Thank you so much for your time on the show today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Professor Ofili Ugudioha. We've been speaking with a professor of accounting at Now University of Nigeria. And hopefully we see all of these solutions which you've highlighted play and come to bear, yielding the fruits that we need to move Nigeria forward. Thank you once again.